if you are going to try to rescue these plots, guys, like try to make sure you understand the species that you're going to do it with. Right? Just like trying to go out and put fertilizer down. I get so many questions. Can't I just put down, triple 13 or triple 19, or hey, I have 2020. Can't I just go throw that over the top? And I mean, maybe you'll see a response, depending on rainfall and what the soil. But there's a good chance that you're probably either not going to get the response you're looking for, or you could even be causing some more damage than good without a plan. I'm not like anti-synthetic, I think, but the point is without a plan. That's where the no-till nurture is a very safe bet. It's all natural. There's no burn risk. So you can't really mess it up. It's going to naturally just kind of slowly get into the soil profile. Don't run to a co-op and go say, hey, can I buy 8 pounds of white Dutch clover and throw it out there, onto your food plot, because you're going to be then dealing with white Dutch clover in an annual food plot if that's your goal for a long time. Does that make sense? Like, just really understand the species in which you're putting down and what your goal is of where you're putting them down before you just go. You're better off saving that perennial bag, frost seeding it, or putting it down on your clover if there's any thin spots before rainfall, or just save it till, March and frost seed it than putting it somewhere where it's an annual.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast, the podcast for wildlife habitat management, hunting strategy, and land stewardship. And now, your host, Jared Van Hees.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast.
I'm your host, Jared Van Hees, so we're here to become better habitat managers. What's going on, everybody? It is September 12th when this goes live. God bless everyone we lost on September 11th. Say prayers. Still reliving that day. I think I was a freshman in high school. Man, not forgotten, never forgotten, for sure, guys. Crazy time of year going on right now, but we have deer hunting on the mind. We're talking food plot saving techniques today. Mr. Al Tomechko, my partner over at Vitalize Seed. We're going to see what he's been up to, how his plots are looking, how his farm's looking. He's done quite a bit of work this year. They're experiencing a pretty big drought again in southern Ohio. I mean, as are we here in Michigan. We've been dry, been real dry. And we're going to talk about things you can do to save your current food plot and to give it that extra boost it needs right now in this low moisture time of the year that we're in. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you're having a great day. I want to make sure we talk about face-off e-bikes, guys. Use code HABITAT at checkout with the face-off e-bike. Get a free Latitude bow holder, Colpin grips on that bad boy. I just got to say that e-bike has blown my mind. It is literally the Cadillac of e-bikes. I know you're thinking he's just saying that. If you were at the Habitat Day, you could have ridden mine or Andy's, and you know what I'm talking about. There are 40 of you there that know what I'm talking about. The thing will go anywhere you want it to. So I tested it over logs, tall grass, mud, not like standing water. And the whole weekend it was still at 99%. So be sure to check out Face Off e-bikes if you're interested in the e-bike. I'm going to be bringing mine to West Virginia this fall, Iowa for sure this fall, Illinois this fall, and then hunting my own 40 acres or the HB70 here in Michigan. That thing is just a way to get around. It'll climb any hill with me on top. I'm excited to sneak up, not look like a two-legged predator, not leave boot scent on the ground with this badass piece of machinery, guys. It's like an ATV in terms of capability. These things are insane. You have to check them out. Face Off e-bikes, code Habitat, tell them Habitat Podcast sent you. I also want to talk about the Antler Anchor Company. Our friend Ryan over in Wisconsin designed these awesome stainless mounts for your wall for either a European skull or shed antlers. I have one sitting right behind me now holding the shed. I have a couple at the cabin holding some sheds. Really nice, indestructible pieces of equipment. Don't buy the plastic ones. They're going to snap off if you grab the shed the wrong way. These things are bulletproof and they look nice. And they're cheap. Use code HABITATPOD at checkout there to celebrate our partnership with Antler Anchor Company. It's HABITATPOD, one word, at checkout at antleranchorco.com. All right, guys, let's get into it. Mr. Al Tomechko, all things fall food plot saves and getting ready for season. Go shoot your bow. See you next week. All right, we're back here at the Habitat Podcast. My good buddy and co-owner of the Vitalize Seed Company, Mr. Albert Tomechko. How are we doing tonight, my friend?
Good, buddy. Good to jump on this kind of last minute, but good to be chatting with you. Not like we don't talk a lot, but it's good to be on here and talking again.
Yeah, well, last minute, this time of year is about the only way I can do it. So I appreciate it. We're going to cover a few things tonight on, maybe guys are struggling with their food plots. I know it's been dry. It rained all spring, all summer, had a little break, rained a little bit early August when I planted, but now, dude, it's been dry. It's been dry. What about you? How's the weather been since when did you plant, and how's the weather been since you planted?
Yeah, it's been really bad. We got an inch of rain the day before we planted,
Okay.
which, we're fortunate on a lot of the acres that we're putting in, no-till drill. You think even if you're broadcasting, you think the stuff's going to get down there and find moisture. It had been relatively wet all summer. So I wasn't overly concerned. And then there was like 3 or 4 chances of rain for, the upcoming week after planting. Actually, at one time I'm like, we're going to be dodging raindrops while planting. And it just all evaporated, man. Like the chance of rain. I mean, like it just went out of I couldn't even believe how all of them missed like 4 days in a row. And then I still felt confident, like, all right, we're gonna get some rain here eventually, but we didn't get any rain for I think it was like 20 days, which is just
Wow.
unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. So we planted August 13th, and I think we got our first bit of rain. Um, I think it was like August. Yeah, I think it was August 29th. Yeah, it was. And we got 4/10 of an inch. And then um, a couple days later, I think maybe Labor Day or the day after, we got like a decent rain, like half inch. Um, and then it hasn't rained again since, and we don't have any rain in the forecast. So it's like super dry. I will say it's amazing what you can achieve with no-till. I mean, it's like I couldn't even believe that I have fields that like have any resemblance of anything growing, just because how dry it had been. And I think that's a lot to do with the thatch and the moisture just holding there. But it's not gonna. I mean, obviously some turkey predation and stuff, but I mean, it's not gonna go anywhere. It's not gonna, but it's sitting there until we get enough moisture to get the seeds to grow. So definitely, it's frustrating, and I feel like a lot of growers, that we work with are in the same boat.
And then last year to boot, you had like state record drought in the fall.
Yeah. Last year was a whole year drought. I mean, it was the worst drought in like over 100 years or 120 years, something like that. And this year, like we're getting close to what I think it goes up to D4, which just is severe. And we're going to be in D2 here very soon if we don't get rain. So we're like halfway to very, very dry conditions. Now, last year was so extreme because of the duration. I mean, it wasn't just that it was severe, as in no rain for say 60 days. I mean, it just didn't. We had no moisture for I don't know how long. It was super unusual. So it's frustrating, that's for sure. To have back-to-back years with this level of drought, and now EHD in Ohio, it's like, holy cow, man! It just is piling on. But you can only control what you can control.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to, has the EHG been getting you at all where you're at? Or I know Southeast
Yeah,
Ohio is really bad, but real quick, I don't want to get too far off the subject, but I want to know if you've been affected.
yeah. It's I haven't gone and walked every creek or nothing like that. I kind of figure, if they're laying in there dead, I'll find them during shed season. I don't want to be more disappointed than I need to be. So and just time also, all kidding aside. But yeah, I mean, it's spreading. It's spreading pretty much throughout all of southeastern Ohio. Down by Parkersburg, if anybody's familiar with that, that's kind of like the Mecca. And then it's kind of spread both directions towards like Cincinnati area, and then all the way back up to Route 70 there, Pittsburgh, Route 70 area. So that whole section, bottom section of southeastern Ohio is getting hit. And some areas are hit a lot harder than others. That's one thing I've been doing, not a lot, but a decent bit of research on EHD, and it's real pockety. You can have 150 acres, a guy will find 15 deer, and you can have 300 acres, a guy will find 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, it makes it very difficult to say an exact area. I will say our cameras have been pretty active, so we'll see. Time will tell as we get closer to cool or a frost really is what will cool the spread or stop the spread, hopefully, of EHD. So time will tell, my friend. Time will tell.
Yeah, there's always an uphill battle in the whitetail woods. You do all this work and time over the years, and Mother Nature wins every time. It seems like I mentioned this on the other podcast last week. I've gotten a half-inch of rain in September so far, and maybe a total of a half-inch since planting the 10th of August. So we need it too. And the plots are still looking pretty good. One is standing, very high and above the other two. That's the only one I hit with the no-till nurture. And that one it looks like it rains every day there. And the bucks are in there. I had 5 bucks in there the other night at one time. And so that might be my main focus out of the three plots that I carved in over the years there at the 40. Then up north, we've been getting more rain. So I've yet to see kind of how that's doing. But we had a guy reach out to try to be a dealer last week, and I called him and was chatting with him. He's in northern Michigan as well. And he's at like no moisture, but he drilled it in like you do. And he said it looks phenomenal. There's just moisture in the ground.
Yeah.
So that one way, maybe not the most popular way, but one way to get around some of this is to rent the county or the soil district's no-till drill and don't break that ground up, use that soil moisture retention, and he has germination and growth without rain. I mean, that's probably, the best way to do it if everybody could do that.
Yeah.
But that's been, I did find that the no-till nurture though, has helped keep these plants fed and healthy. It's been a month today. It's been a month since I planted. And that plot looks amazing. So,
yeah.
I guess let's get into what plans do you have or could folks have if their plots aren't looking too great? And that's anybody's plots this time of year.
Yeah, of course. I mean, so I think there's a couple things. It's always like in everything in life, we got to look at, budget and time and all those factors, right? So like for me personally, we drill and broadcast a lot of, at least what I think is a lot of acres of food plots, especially with our terrain. It's not like you're just setting this thing down on flat ground and going. Like it's if you spread it all out, it's probably double what we actually are doing just because of the hills and everything like that. Or you could do double in the same amount of time, I should say. So for me, timing's a big one, young kids, blah, blah, blah. So I also know that on plots that I no-till drilled, that have been in our 1-2 system, we've amended with lime, they've been in the system for before you and I even started the company, or, all these things, like they have pretty solid soil health, right? Like I've pulled all the scientific tests, PLFA or whatever you want to go into. So I have a pretty good feeling that unless there's some crazy amount of predation from coons or turkey or whatnot, like when we get moisture, those plants are going to jump up out of the ground. Now I'm not going to set any world records for turnips when, it's late in the year, but I don't have to. I'm going to have the annual clovers and all that stuff that's in the diversity there. But on some of the newer plots that I have that are lower organic matter, higher CEC, right? So low organic matter relative to the soil type, so high clay content. Not a lot of thatch cover because they've only been in the system for maybe a year or two. Maybe they're on a ridge top, so they just are inherently a little bit drier than some of your bottom ground plots, or, you can go into all the specifics. Well, those ones, on the one in particular, I'm like, I got some time. I had a little bit of seed left in the barn. I re-drilled it. Bryce was with me. I said, get it in the tractor, buddy. And like we re-drilled that plot. It was about a 3-acre plot. So it took a little bit of, 6 foot at a time. It took a little bit of time, but that was right before we got that kind of first actual rain since plantings. Was 20 some days after planting. And I kind of knew that was potentially coming. Of course, it was going to be like 3 days of rain. Then it went down to 1, then it went down to like 50%. I'm like, holy, you got to be, but we ended up getting it. So that was, I think, a good choice. I think it'll, again, time will tell if those seedlings can germinate and then keep going. So all of that to say, that was kind of my plan. Now, will I do anything additional? I don't think so. I mean, honestly, if I had more free time and stuff, but I don't. But if I was to do something, I'd be very strategic about it from a budgetary perspective. And if you have, I just wrote an article actually on our page about this. So a big thing that I believe in is you have really like 3 options, right? One is if you have plants that are existing. And I did this also on a few of the fields. I think I sprayed maybe 50% of the fields, maybe a little bit less, is I could see young germination there, right? The thatch is there. I knew there was rain coming. So I hit it with all 3 of our foliars. Revive is going to help break down some of that thatch. The regen and the biocharge are going to actually feed the little itty bitty seedlings that are there, get some additional nutrients in. And then we had rain coming 2 or 3 days later. So I'm like, this is at least worth a shot to give those plants a little bit of a boost. And where I did it, versus like where I did it, this is of course anecdotal, but I can see just on trail cameras the difference on those plots. Now there could be other things happening there, right? Maybe that soil was inherently a little bit better or whatnot. But the 2 or 3 plots that I sprayed compared to ones that I didn't, I can see a difference already, which is pretty cool to see a little bit better growth. And I'm sure that a lot of that has to do with timing of rain and also timing of application. So that's one. The other one that a lot of people go to is, overseeding, and I just like to tell people if you're interested in no-till and continuing in no-till, just be a little bit cautious on overseeding. And what I mean by that is like, if you go too heavy on just rye grain and it all takes, you can find yourself, and I see it almost every spring, people say, this thatch is like unbelievably, like, I don't know what to do. So they go right back out and they get their disc out and they disc it all up or they till it all up because there's nothing, they literally, the amount of carbon is so high. Now, some might say, well, farmers can get away with a higher rate. And in some cases they do. Most farmers that I've had the opportunity to work with aren't using 200 pounds of rye as a cover. They're probably at like 30 to 70 pounds of rye, and then they're cutting it with like a hairy vetch and a crimson clover or something like that if they're just trying to use like a quick fly on cover crop. And the other thing that a lot of times farmers will do is they'll do a early season burn down. So they're going to burn that rye when it hasn't reached this later stage of growth where its carbon to nitrogen ratio is much higher. Whereas if you are a food plotter, most food plotters go, man, I love when that rye gets high and tall. I want it to get cover, the deer are eating the heads off of it, all this, the turkeys are in there. But then the issue comes if they go to put in a spring food plot, it's super, super dense and super thick. And you have what's called nutrient tie-up. So what I always recommend is, especially if you already have a mix like carbon load in there, is those plants are there. They are going to grow. You're not doing a complete replant. There's annual clovers in there that are itty bitty seeds. They're going to grow. So I always tell people, go like, 25 to 75 pounds per acre, depending on deer density, soil fertility, rainfall, or, et cetera. Look at all your variables. And then if you can cut that at 50% rate with oats, that's a really good option. And the reason is because your oats are going to, in most cases, aren't going to overwinter. They're relatively inexpensive. And what happens is when those oats die, they're going to feed the deer up for a while. But when they die and they're not going to come back as strong that next spring, again, you reduce that risk of carbon or nutrient tie-up because of the high carbon. And the other thing to keep in mind is adding like our annual clover mix is a great one, or if you have your own that you like or whatnot, adding a little bit of clover in there as well. Or if you have another, you could add Austrian winter peas, although those larger seeds, if you don't have consistent rain, I think can be a little bit difficult. Or if you're drilling it, it's not as much of a risk. But those are some things I would say to consider when you're talking about kind of how to save a drought plot. More is not always better, and especially if you're interested in trying to keep a no-till system going. If you're just going to till it up the next year, go to town. I mean, you can put as much down because you're literally going to just be like when a farmer comes out of a corn harvest and they go, what am I going to do with all these corn stalks? We're going to work them under, right? I mean, it's because that's their option for residue management in a lot of cases. But for guys who want to stick with the no-till, just something to be cognizant of. I get calls almost every spring, I would say for sure, of guys like, what am I supposed to do? I'll go, well, what did you, I planted carbon load, then I put down 200 or 300 pounds of rye on top of it. And I'm like, well, why? I'm not judging, I'm just trying to understand. And well, I've always just done that. I'm like, well, you have you just have so much rye there now that can be a potential issue. So some things to keep in mind.
I love that advice about cutting it with the oats. I'm going to skip the rye and I'm going to top dress with just oats because there's rye out there. There's little clovers out there. There's brassicas out there. Once they get that rain, they're going to pop. So I still have oats left over from my frost seeding of the clover oats chicory mix. I cut it open and used the clover and the chicory this spring, and I still have all the oats for this exact reason. So those are going to be going out and hitting the dirt, and then they won't be there in the spring to have to worry about it to get through. I also liked we call it the Vitalize stack, but it's our 3 foliars you mentioned. I've been using a lot of the Biocharge and the Revive RN, even on my grass here in the yard. That's been a tip. Why not? You have it. Use a couple ounces here or there. It lasts quite a long time. So these are all things you can do to boost your plots right now. And when they get that rain, they're going to be fed and ready to go. And then that no-till nurture, I swear, man, I'm putting that on my yard, putting that on my plots. It's a granular product, and just blown away by how much better that one plot is doing over the others. So if you have some time, guys, and you're not staying out of your farm because you want to get that food plot dialed in for late October, it's not too late to get out there and switch. We've had a drought in one season or another since we started this company.
Mm-hmm.
We have.
Yeah.
So we're used to it. And we still have good plots every year. So what we're trying to get at, there's ways around this, but like Al said, be strategic about it. You don't need to just go throw money on top of the field and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, healthy plants and a healthy system are going to be more resilient. Now, nothing's foolproof. I don't care what you're planting, how you're planting, where you're planting, like nothing is guaranteed. But I will say, like on my grass as well, I have used our foliars for a while now, and I've used herbicide, which is like unheard of in a primary fescue lawn. Like people are like, oh, I have to spray herbicide, 3 times a year or whatever, right? Well, I do.
And what are they spraying? Like a 2,4-D or what?
Yeah, typically spraying out clovers and things like that. Yeah. And the reason is because, not the only reason, but a lot of times it's because, you don't have really healthy, like say, bluegrass or whatnot, Kentucky fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, whatever. And what I found in my yard where I've used just standard soil tests like we do with, customers at Vitalize, right? Like pulling soil tests, doing all the stuff I have to do, is I've used like a weed and feed, if you will, type of thing. That's basically just going to, it's like 2,4-D pelletized, essentially is what it is. And there's like
at a very, very minor amount. Yep.
Yeah. And I've used it, I think, once in 2 or 3 years. And the rest has been foliar applications of our products to just feed the plants. Now, we went through a real bad dry spell, as we were talking about before we got that rain, and the grass starts to go dormant. That's what those type of grasses end up doing. So they start to kind of brown out a little bit. They don't look that great. And what was funny is we got rain, And within like 2 days, that grass shot back up and was green as could be. And it's just because the system there, even in that monoculture, which is not ideal, right? But the plants are much healthier. So when you go through and you're applying like the no-till nurture, like I've used that in my yard, right, since I don't know, 2 years ago, started on that. And one of the things with like that product is it's slow release nutrients. So there's no risk of burn, right? Same with all of our foliars. These are organic nutrients, meaning they're organic in the sense of chemical definition. So when you spray them on these plants, yes, some of them are going to get assimilated quickly because they're in amino acid form or whatnot, similar to no-till nurture. Some are going to break down faster, but a lot of them are going to be slow release. So every time you get that dew or that moisture and those microbes start doing their thing, that's slowly releasing that into the profile. Whereas if you're in a drought, you think you're going to get this rain, you go throw 4600 out to try to save a food plot.
Yikes.
You might lose 90% of it, maybe 95% of it, right? So those are things that I think are pretty critical in understanding, hey, I want to save a food plot. Is timing can be really critical, especially when using synthetic nutrients. So I'm a big believer in trying to time that up if you want to do a mixture of foliars and, a granular or both. But that's definitely something that can help. And it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You're not going to fix your soil and fix your system and get your biology primed and do it in one season. It takes time. And the fields that I've that have been in it for a long time, are much better off than the ones that are new and had been dozed off. It's just, they got to get built up. We got to get roots down in there. We got to get pH adjusted. So those are some things. That's where, if I'm trying to save a plot, I'm going to trust the process on the other ones. I'm going to put my, time and dollars. Like, okay, let me get 80 pounds per acre no-till nurture and spray this one with some foliar and maybe drill an extra bag of carbon load or whatever. That's where my focus is. And then just keep praying for rain.
Yeah, it's not quite. It's a Band-Aid in a way of getting it done, but it's not an instant, flash in the pan type Band-Aid. Your soil is still going to benefit for next year and the year after that. It's not just good for this season. The stuff we're doing is going to be good for, like you said, marathon. Okay, so the only other thing I'll offer on last minute food plot saves is to say a prayer for rain. What else do you have for anything else last minute on the food plot saves here in September? And we're talking Midwest, Northeast, where the planting window is diminishing. All of our Southern guys, we love you. You guys are still, waiting for the day to plant. We're just getting in the ground here soon, so they're still, they're laughing at us, going, "Hey, yeah, drought again," But for, is there anything else you're trying to do that we didn't hit besides kill a buck here on the food plots this fall?
I don't think.
I think we covered most of it, but
yeah, I guess I did have one question from a gentleman today. Great guy.
Okay.
And, he wrote, he's like, "Yeah, man, everything was coming up beautiful." And he put our clover in the spring on one part of his farm, and then he put in our carbon load on another part of his farm. And he bought our clover 1-2 bundle, so he had a little bit of the premium clover plus left over. He wrote to me, and he's like, "Hey, what if I just, I know clover's small seed, probably get pulled in with the dew, blah, blah, blah. What if I just put it over on that carbon load, And not that I don't want to sell more seed, but I don't want to give bad advice either. And I said, you know what? Putting down perennial clovers into a carbon load that you're going to terminate and plant or plant your nitro boost into is not the best use of your money." So I share that story because if you are going to try to rescue these plots, guys, like try to make sure you understand the species that you're going to do it with, right? Just like trying to go out and put fertilizer down. I get so many questions. Can't I just put down, triple 13 or triple 19, or hey, I have 2020. Can't I just go throw that over the top? And maybe you'll see a response, depending on rainfall and what the soil, but there's a good chance that you're probably either not going to get the response you're looking for, or you could even be causing some more damage than good without a plan. I'm not like anti-synthetic, I think, but the point is, without a plan, that's where like the no-till nurturers is a very safe bet. It's all natural. There's no burn risk. So you can't really mess it up. It's going to naturally just kind of slowly get into the soil profile. But when you're going out there, don't run to a co-op and go say, hey, can I buy 8 pounds of white Dutch clover and throw it out there, onto your food plot, because you're going to be then dealing with white Dutch clover in an annual food plot if that's your goal for a long time. Does that make sense? Like, just
Sure does.
really understand the species in which you're putting down, and what your goal is of where you're putting them down before you just go. You're better off saving that perennial bag and frost seeding it, or putting it down on your clover if there's any thin spots before rainfall, or just save it till March and frost seed it, than putting it somewhere where it's an annual.
Are you thinking about saddle hunting but haven't taken the plunge yet? Well, I can assure you, latitudeoutdoors.com is right where I would start if I were you. I got my brand new Method 3 2-panel saddle this year, the most comfy saddle on the market, ready to go this fall. Also, guys, I've been rocking the Method 2 for years. Method 3 came out, it couldn't get any better? Well, it did. This thing is insane. Check it out, latitudeoutdoors.com, but don't forget the Profile Saddle platform and their brand new Ranger 33 packs. I run the Ranger 22 right now, and I'm definitely looking at the Ranger 33 to add to my arsenal for this fall. Check them out, guys. Great people, a great company, Michigan-based, and they're already whacking bucks this season. latitudeoutdoors.com.
Packermax.com. Have you guys used a Packermax cultipacker yet? I know that being the first partner of the Habitat podcast, I've been using one for over 5 years now. Guys, cultipacking is one of the highest rated and highly overlooked part of your food plot system. It helps maintain soil moisture, keeps it in the soil, improves seed to soil contact when you press those seeds into the dirt, and ensures superior seed germination for all seed types. I do not plant a food plot without cultipacking. Guys, Packer Max and Lincoln over there, great company, great people. They have 5 different cultipackers available at packermax.com, and they also have a roller crimper combo attachment for the Packer Max. So that's what I use. I can crimp, I can pack, I can do everything with my Packer Max crimper combo. They even came out with a 6-foot unit at packermax.com. Guys, be sure to utilize this piece of equipment when you're planting food plots to get the best success in your seed germination. Check them out, packermax.com. We have a code HPC25 at checkout to save money.
Well said, guys. And when we said it before, we'll say it again. If you have questions, we have a chat feature on our website at vitalizeseed.com. Email us, phone numbers, whatever. But I did want to bring up that last Habitat Journal post you put up there on drought saving tips. It's a blog you wrote very recently. That's on there as well. The website's a resource, guys. So if you have questions, literally, maybe just simple questions, here to answer them. So, all right, enough about bad news and droughts. Hopefully we get some rain. But you said those cameras have some activity. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What kind of activity?
Yeah, I mean, we got a couple bucks around for sure. It is odd, I would say, with the EHD. I actually had a deer show up last night that I was just certain in my mind, oh, he's dead as a doornail.
Really?
Had him in velvet, and then we had a couple cameras die, and then with not having cameras out, you're kind of like, and then getting them out, and you're like, oh, well, this deer didn't show up in the first day or two. He must be dead, because he was pretty regular deer. So he showed up last night, and he's a really nice deer. He had last year he had double flyers. I actually had him at 60 yards opening day, and then I ended up killing Dozer the second day. But this deer was one I would have shot him had he come in a little bit closer. And this year he didn't throw a flyer, but he actually split on his G2. So just a really nice deer, probably like, I don't know, probably mid-50s, I would say. Just a really nice deer. And then, yeah, I mean, just have a couple old bucks that are hunting. I have a couple permission spots that I got some cameras out. I put a couple little Vitalize plots in there. I have the one is like, gosh, I'm trying to think about it in my mind. He's just like a big, ugly 8-point, but like he's real wide, comes around, his main beams almost touch, and his belly hangs like he's got to be like five plus, like 6, 7, who knows? This is a huge belly, but not a high scoring deer, but just like an old bruiser. So yeah, we'll see, man. I mean, I'll definitely be hunting early. If I think it's worth it, I'm not going to hunt just to hunt, but I am a big fan of if I have a deer that's showing signs he wants to get shot, that I'm going to not give him a chance to change his mind.
Sure. Nothing wrong with that. I saw, are you planning on, you've tagged out, since I've known you, you've tagged out opening week, say 2-3 times at least?
Yeah, three.
Okay, yeah. I'm thinking the one behind your house, the one at your farm, Dozer, the one on the permission property, that big wide ass one.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean,
that point on the phone. That was actually that nice 10-point I killed on the farm. It was not opening week of season, but it was the first week I hunted the farm, first day actually, which was, that was pretty cool too. I think that was November the 3rd. And first sit, so it's, sometimes it's lucky to do that. But yeah, opening day, I've had some really, or opening, week or so.
Just early season. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had some really good opportunities during that time.
That's good. Are you still, if the cameras are showing you, are you still planning on striking early if they're showing you that's the way to go again?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I guess you can go both ways. Like, if you just love to just hunt and hunt and hunt, and which I like, I enjoy hunting. I really do. But if a deer's mature and he's like showing up on camera and I'm like happy with that particular deer and I have good access, and I'm not one that's like, well, maybe I'll find a bigger deer. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna like obviously Dozer, that was like a no-brainer for sure. And that big wide one was a good deer. I mean, they've been great deer, but my point is just like I'm not somebody who's like just chasing antlers. Like if it's a mature deer and he's showing up regularly and I'm like, a bird in the hand is better. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of my thought process on that. And I think a big key to that is, I know sometimes, how do you get one, opening week, like that's crazy. You did it 3 times or whatever. And I know guys who've done it 100, like not 100, but a lot, And I think a big key to that though is like choosing to hunt deer or areas where there's consistency. Like if you have, like there's a difference between having a big buck on camera, like once in a while he's coming through there in the daylight in early season, but it's not like every night or every other night, But if you can find, whether it's on a soybean field or a food plot or whatever it might, acorns or watering holes or whatever it might be, and you got a camera and this deer is coming in, even once every 3 nights, like that's pretty pattern for a whitetail, And it's like, to me, there's just not that many cases of that, And I mean, and it can happen quick too. Like with Dozer, like I had a picture of him here and there, and then like 2 weeks before season, it was, I think, something along those lines. It was like every day or every 3rd day.
Nice.
It was like boom, 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 boom. So in those situations, it's like, Just like the Flyers deer. The night before, when I almost killed him, it was kind of the same thing. Like that deer had started showing on camera, and I had a little bit of history of seeing him in that particular, field and stuff. And I went there and had that deer come 60 yards, like opening. And I'm like, holy cow, So within 2 days, I had 2 deer that were, one was 5.5, and then Dozer that I ended up killing was 7.5. So it's like those are old, mature deer. So I think the big thing is they're gonna, as more pressure sets on, even on larger properties or smaller properties, and they start to get they start to have more testosterone, all those different things. They're just behavior changes. So I try to tell people, if you have a deer, if you're okay with having multiple spots and multiple cameras out, and you can find a deer that's showing a pattern, and you're like, yeah, that to me is a big, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, when you say it that way, it's simple, stupid. Like if it's right there, and his testosterone is going to change, pressure is going to change. He's going to go back to being how do I get old type buck, right? I'm going to hide. I'm going to wait for the does before I daylight or whatever. I've not killed one that early. I think like the 12th of October is the earliest I killed one here in Michigan, and I'm going to have a choice to make too. Because things are looking pretty good for opener. And I don't normally focus a ton on that, but when you have the spot, you built all the habitat up, and they're showing you the doors open, like get in there.
I think that's the thing. Like for years, I never hunted until late,
right?
Just because I don't know. I guess I was kind of told like, oh, it's too hot or whatever. Like. And then I just started, running a lot more cameras and just would observe. And I got really tired of like thinking like, oh, well, that buck's in there now. It's going to be really sweet when I kill him in November. Like I was like, wait, why am I waiting?
Right.
Because then November comes and that deer's 8 miles away and gets hit by a train. And you're like, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen so many times. Don't get me wrong, I've had some really, my cousin Zach and I have really amazing November hunts, and he killed, last week of October, first weekend, he killed 3 or 4 bucks, like boom, 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 like road. Like we'd go hunt 3-4 days, and it was like 3 or 4 years in a row. He killed a really nice, deer during November, rutting, chasing, and that's a lot more like, you're going to see deer probably. You just aren't really sure which ones. You're going to hunt these food plots that are tucked in with bedding or thick areas, edge near them. And these does are going to come sneaking out, or a big buck or, small buck or whatever, going to come busting out, chasing them. But it's so different in early season. If you're really looking to target a specific deer and they're showing a pattern, to me, it's just like a no-brainer. Go in there and kill them. If it's one you're happy with. I'm not saying you have to do it, because certainly deer do change. You might pick up a better deer later. But if it's a deer that you're happy to hang your hat on and put your tag on, then it's like, go for it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. We always talk about low pressure and access and not blowing your farm out. But at the same time, it's just a delicate balancing act, because if you let everybody else start to pressure the ground around you, your deer are going to suck in, or they might get some of that pressure feeling too and change their patterns. Yeah. So strike when the iron's hot, I guess, is the resounding thing I'm hearing.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is, let's not, beat around the bush. The trail camera data is just critical.
Yeah.
So
how many cameras do you have out there?
I don't even know how many cameras are running. My buddy is probably 12. And then I don't even know. We just put up a bunch more. Probably, let's say 15 to 20 cameras total. Of my buddies, I don't hunt all the spots. So some we have, joint permission on. and whatnot. And in the farm, I have a bunch too. So maybe 20 total, I would say, of what I'm looking at on my phone. And it could be a lot more, right, to be honest. But like, I'm just very, very into, like, if I'm not seeing deer moving on camera, then I'm not probably going to hunt. That, like, I'm not going to go in and just hope, right? Like, I'll just not hunt. But if I see a deer that is moving, and you can even do it with SD cards. I mean, as you used to do it with SD cards a lot more. Go and pull them. Now with these cell cameras, it's nice because you don't have to go in there, but just monitor that and just try to not just blow through it, but like, look, okay, from 6 to 8:30 when the sun's still out or whatever, sun's setting in the evening, what does it look like? And then recognize your access. Like that wide deer that I killed a few years ago that you talked about, he was showing up in the morning as frequently as he was going through there in the evening. But could I have killed him? Maybe I get lucky. But to me, it wasn't worth it because he was showing up so consistently in the evening. I was like, it might not happen day one, but I think within a couple days, if I can get in there in the evening, I can get in there early. He's showing up at like whatever, 7:15, whatever it was. I'm going to get in there at like 4 in the afternoon. My wind's good, and I'm just going to wait him out. And had I gone in there in the morning and blew him out of there, who knows what would have happened. So that's the other thing too, is like, even if you have a deer showing up, then you go reset the clock, right? Or reset your steps of decisions, because you have to say, well, what's my access to get in there?
Well, answer me this. I had a giant 6-point who should be an 8-point. He's just missing his threes. I showed up today at about 1:57 p.m. on one of my scrapes. What I like to think about that, 12:57 p.m. What I like to think about that is some of the bedding I've created and the cutting I've done is really making these guys feel at home, which is awesome. But then that's just a random picture. Not all of them are walking around at that time of day. But to your point, I'm agreeing with play it smart, go off of some data you have. And even though you're waiting for the data to go off of, you might get the buck every 3 days. Your camera's not getting every picture of that buck. That buck could be walked to the left of your camera, to the right of your camera. So I'm going to try to probably go in a little earlier than I normally do and capitalize on this. We're going on some hunting trips this year and this and that too. So I got some tags to fill, but before everybody else gets in their stands, hopefully I slip in there real quick and lay one down. So,
I mean, look at the state of Kentucky just opened up and how many big deer are getting drug out of there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it can happen. The deer are on summer patterns, and they're it's arguably one of my favorite times to try to get on a whitetail. Really, it is. It's just, there's something about it that is just really exciting. So, the rut's amazing. Late season's amazing. There's so many great times to hunt. But man, if you can get a deer that's showing up regularly and you can sneak in there and they read the script, and then you put an arrow into them and kill them quickly, ethical shot, like that is just amazing. And yeah, so I mean that's my tip is, with the cameras, pay attention to them, and it's just probability. You're trying to put the odds in your highest favor, and that's where it's like, okay, he showed up 2, 3, 4 days, or 3 out of 5, or whatever. And this isn't like anything I made up. I mean, you look at it, there's juries. Mark Drury killed that 200 and whatever it was, 217 or some gigantic deer 3-4 years ago now, and he killed it out of that muddy blind. I think he shot that like the first or second week of the season. They kind of moved it close to the bedding, and he was like, yeah, this deer, we got to get this deer's coming through here. He's been 5 out of 6 days or whatever. It's been like 2 years since I watched it. He ends up shooting that deer at like 12 yards out of that muddy, I think it was a muddy, maybe a redneck, but out of the bow window. And like, Mark, I think, was one of the guys who said there's 2 times deer are most predictable. It's early season, and if you want to kill them, in late season. If you want to kill a mature deer, it's like, you were talking in your last podcast, late muzzleloader in Iowa. Overstanding soybeans, like, come on, overstanding turnip plot, like, maybe carbon load, right? But like, this, all joking aside, like, that's very attractive.
Yeah.
We got people who are friends and customers of ours, Vitalize, and they're like, yeah, we had 70 deer in the field. And there's like 10 like really nice bucks, and you're like, holy cow, with a smoke hole in your hand, like, it's pretty awesome.
Doesn't sound too bad.
No, heck no. So, but my point in that is, like, there are certain times a year where deer are more patternable than others, and if you have a camera that's telling you something, like, don't wait. I know I did for years. I waited at Jared. I don't know what I was doing, but that would
Good
be my
advice. That's good advice. Good advice. I think, especially with the out of state trips I'm going this year, I'm gonna be more aggressive than I've ever been. Safely, like, smart. Have a reason. Don't just do it. But you got young kids, you got sports, you got little baby girl. We got stuff to do too. So it's like, have a purpose and be intentional with your sits. When you put all this work in all year long, let's just not blow it out, right? So.
Yeah, and I think I know there's a lot of really, really good hunters that talk about, like, waiting for the right time to strike,
I've
And
been one. I've said that for sure.
You can, like, burn yourself out on, if you're just like, I used to just grind. I mean, every morning, like, just kind of like, I just didn't know any better. And I think that you can burn yourself out. Like, if the weather's really bad, and of course everybody will come, I shot a deer in 80-mile-an-hour winds one day or whatever, right? Like, yeah, there are certainly people who have done that. But again, when it comes down to, like, a statistical analysis, you look at cameras, you look at all these different, and you look at it and you go, okay, on these type of days, or in this type of weather pattern, or my current situation on my XYZ number of acres is, I don't have a buck I want to hunt. Like, to me, it's like, you either got to move cameras around, or move them in different locations, or you need to wait. But, like, just going out and hunting just in hopes that, and again, somebody will, I went and I shot a mystery buck, and that does happen. And I think there's times that you can kind of do that, like, if it's really getting down to the wire, late season. Like, I killed a buck a few years ago like that. I mean, it was just like a big cold front pushing through. Nothing had been showing up on camera, but I'm like, this is like a 40-degree cold snap. I'm just going, and I ended up shooting a buck I'd never seen before, and that was cool. He had a bladed G2 and stuff, and he's ended up being a pretty darn nice buck, but, like, certainly nothing huge. But my point is, like, that was January 7th or something. I mean, it's like, we're in the new year, brother. Like, you're talking late, see, Hail Mary here. So those would be my tips for guys. And again, this is nothing I made. These are guys, Mark Jury type stuff, skip slide type tips. Like, these pro dudes who are going to be out there telling you, like, don't just go out there to hunt. Just try to be strategic with it, but certainly don't shy away if the iron's hot.
Yeah. Something we always talk about with the land plan guys, same thing. Let the cameras do some hunting, right? With the iron's hot, but don't blow your spots out. Or you can, if you want, if you have like 10 other spots, that's fine. But yeah, well said, man. So if you're going to call your shot this year, what day are you killing on? And I know this is a terrible question to ask you because you're so humble, and that's why I like you, but I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, gosh. Probably 2026. I could kill my next one.
I like that answer. I wasn't expecting that. I like that answer.
That's probably it. But no, we'll see. Hopefully we have some fun, man. That's what it's all about. But I'm looking forward to some hours in a tree stand. That's for sure.
Well, say you kill your buck. Here comes January. For me, it's January. I'm done hunting. You guys can go a little longer where you're at. we still have food plots on the mind, soil health on the mind, Vitalize on the mind, because, well, so you and I do. But let's talk winter fertility. That's something I haven't heard a lot on people's podcasts. Normally it's like, hey, you're done. Start making your jerky, watch Super Bowl, see you next spring.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a great time. So we've talked about this a little bit. I think last year I did a video or two, but again, on these, I'm not saying to do this across the board, but on your low fertility plots, you pulled your soil tests, you looked at things. Maybe your budget wasn't going to allow for all of the things you wanted to do. I'll give an example. I have that field that I've talked about a lot. I'm going to probably go in there around, let's say it's March. So Ohio's out, it's just kind of this dull air, but it's still winter, ground's frozen. That's a really good time, in my opinion, to get out, get some lime down. You're going to start to have some warmer days where things are greening up, especially if you have a carbon load in there. Your fields are not going to be totally barren, especially like for me, I'm in no-till systems, whether it be broadcast or drill. So I'm putting lime down. If I need to put Vitalize micros down, I'm going to put down, those are going to slowly leach into that soil profile. So by springtime, the no-till nurture, again, it's organic. It's going to be slowly breaking down as that soil warms up. And then also in those places where there's been heavy browse or drought pressure, I can throw in that annual clover mix. And that's another thing, because that's just frost seeding. So you get the whirlybird spreader on your tractor, or you're doing it on your four-wheeler or whatever, you can mix all of those together. And I'm not saying go crazy, but it's like, if I'm going to go across the field with, 700 pounds of lime, let's say, what does it hurt to throw 80 pounds of no-till nurture and 25 pounds of micros in there and a bag of clover? And what I have found, so I did that last March, I guess that would have been. And then when we went to plant Nitro Boost in May, it's March, May, there's a lot, I had done a couple videos if anybody had seen them or not, but I had some of our annual clovers, both from the carbon load and then also from where I had kind of overseeded those in there, or frost seeded those in there, I should say. And I'm certain that the no-till nurture helped as well, but I had annual clovers that were 2 foot tall in there. Wow. And that's in one of my worst fields, right? So, it's a 4.8 pH, maybe it's up to 5.2 now, I think, on most recent. But we got work to do. We're at like 5.2. We need to get that up to like 6.5, not only for the pH, but that's a whole nother discussion. But from the base saturation perspective, there's a very low calcium in that soil. So as we get that up, it's only going to get better. But was producing great annual clovers there, plus your grains and all that, of course. But I would expect that. I have some growing in my truck where I spilled it, and I have a tonneau cover on my truck, and I open it up and there's grains growing. I'm like, this there's no sun, it's unbelievable. It's it's just unbelievable. They're photosynthesizing without sunlight. But and I was, those are things that I would say from a winter fertility perspective that can, kind of make a little bit of a difference. I will say, though, the caveat to all that is whether you're using our products or somebody else's, if you're in a tillage situation, I'm probably not going to recommend something like that if you think there's risk of like erosion or runoff. Now if you've tilled and you have a perfectly cover cropped field because you had diversity in there, it's not just like turnips or something, but like when I used to till, I found pictures from years ago on a big old turnips, and then like the next picture was in the winter I had in the fields, there's nothing left. Well, on a field like that, which is mud basically, and you go throw a bunch of nutrients down, and you get a gully washer rain or a snow freeze thaw, 70 degree and water's pouring off the hillsides. Again, terrain matters, but it's literally physically moving, right? Like, I don't care if it's organic or synthetic or what it is, it's physically going to be moving. So just some things to keep in mind. Again, every field has its own prescription. But those are some tips that I like to do. And then again, if I'm going to, at planting time on that field, I might hit it again with, another 40 pounds of no-till nurture. Some guys are running it through their drill. I have not done that yet. But some guys, have had real good success running it right through their drill with the seed. So Adam Winkleman in Minnesota did that, and a couple customers of ours in Southeastern Ohio did it as well and gave me great feedback. But that would be my tip if you're doing kind of winter fertility, some things you can do to kind of maximize that food plot.
Awesome. That's great advice. And I would just say, do your soil test too, guys, so you're not throwing money down the drain too. Yeah. But yeah, that's really good. I think the lime, the no-till nurture, I have a lot to do still. So it's definitely on my mind. Did not get everything down that I wanted to get down for fertility purposes this fall. So got some work to do come end of season.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. I help so many guys, and I love doing it with their fertility programs. Some guys are like, hey man, like I can't do that. That's expensive. Like, can I do half of that? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, honestly, well, you have low CEC soil. So why don't I'd recommend splitting it up anyways. So if you want to do a third now, a third while it's growing, and a third next spring, do it that way. Like we're food plotters. We're trying to get the yield here because the combine's coming. That's a totally different discussion. And of course it is, because you're selling it off and you're going to recoup, good Lord willing, recoup that. That's just a mathematical formula, right? For like a business plan of the farm. But when you're a food plotter and you're looking more like long term, and that's the other thing I think people need to understand is like with our recommendations in our products, we're from the soil up. If you're just looking for 1 year, year one, I want to grow brassicas and I want to get them huge. Like that's all I'm focused on. I'm not focused on stimulating biology. I'm not focused on nutrient cycling. Not that saying that's wrong. That's totally fine. But if that's your goal, then going and throwing 4600 down and tilling it in and then putting turnips down and packing it is pretty effective, right? Like, so I try to tell people, like when I give recommendations, I say, okay, here's what I'd recommend. Year one, 2 tons of lime or whatever you can get. Year two, we're going to hit it with gypsum because your magnesium's already high and we got to get the calcium and everything, get the pH right. Then we're going to use gypsum to get the calcium perfect and drive down your magnesium. And then we're going to hit this with no-till nurture at this rate. And we're going to kind of tear this down, assuming no drought, assuming no overbrowse. We can tear this down and then have biology, 1-2 system or whatever you want to go in there and do, kind of take over, right? But now the system's prime. And then of course you can foliar feed or do whatever you want to kind of give it a boost, if you will, right? And that's kind of feeding the plant. But when you're talking no-till nurture and lime and all these other things, in the micros, that's building that system up, building that soil up first. That's going to give you not just, a jump start now, but year after year after year. So yeah, if you spread that out, it's just like building the foundation, It's like we're not just throwing it up. You're building this foundation. So if you have to spread out how much time it takes you to build that foundation, that's okay.
Marathon. Well said, Al. Well said. Well, I know I'm sure you and I will be talking before season opens for you, but good luck this fall. I hope your plots get some rain. I hope my plots get some rain. And we'll keep this moving. So anything you want to leave us with?
No, man, just thanks to all the customers. I'm super thankful. I will say we just put for anybody who was interested in the quick spiel I just did, we just did a hour and 15-minute webinar with our friend Dr. Patrick Fries from Ward Labs. I got to sit down, I picked his brain, and I thought, the feedback, I've gotten several people who've wrote to me and really enjoyed it. Really trying to bridge the conversation, between kind of conventional and whether you want to call it regenerative agriculture or conservation agriculture, and just kind of like, well, what makes sense? We talk herbicides, we talk tillage, we talk all these different things, and really try to hopefully come out with that as like, how do we help you meet your goals? So if you want to till, here's what we recommend. So if you have a chance to check that out, or if it's of interest to you, that's on our YouTube page. And just thanks to all the customers. Amazing fall. We're still rocking and rolling in the Southeast, obviously. Some guys are still ordering in the North, but the Southeast is rocking. A lot of those guys aren't going to be playing. I think Jeremy said they plan into November sometime. So we're rocking and rolling, plenty of seed in stock, ready to rock. And we appreciate you all so much. If you ever have questions, reach out to us.
Yeah, thanks, Al. I appreciate that. I'll echo that. Really appreciate all the customers so far. And in 2025, like Al said, everything is in stock, ships same day or next day. So if you're like me and last minute call Al for an awesome podcast and you want to get your seed ordered too, great time to do it. VitalizeSeed.com. Al, thanks very much. Good luck this fall. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Take care, buddy.
Thank you for tuning in to the Habitat Podcast. We really do appreciate you guys coming back every week to get this awesome Habitat content. And we would appreciate it if you went to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to this podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us continue to grow and trend in the right direction, attract new listeners, and help us provide better content in the future. Guys, we have a website full of resources. We have a blog on the website. We have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all linked up at habitatpodcast.com. Our land plan services, merchandise, decals, hats, t-shirts, and I give away a free 5-inch decal to anyone who leaves us a review on Apple iTunes. Really appreciate it. I want to thank our partners, Downburst Seeders, Vitalize Seed Company, Morse Nursery, Packer Max Cultipackers, Stealth Outdoors, First Light Latitude Outdoors, United Country Midwest Lifestyle Properties. Thanks again, guys. We'll be back next week with another great episode of the Habitat Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.